Hey, today I thought I'd do my Streets of Rage 4 overview and mini review. I beat the game twice, actually. I got the review key from .emu this morning, actually, on the 29th, but the game actually came out early on the Switch eShop, so when I went on my kitty sitting shift, I actually beat the game first over there. I will do a port review when I can probably get a little bit farther in the game. From what I understand, on harder difficulties, more enemies spawn, so it's going to be a little harder for me to do a port review for that versus a lot of the other stuff I do. But for today, I thought I would go over just the basic mechanics and then my overall opinion on the game. So they added an air special. There's also a unique pickup and throw button, which is nice. I definitely appreciate that. It's been one of the biggest problems with beat 'em ups is when you're like right over the barbecue or the pizza or whatever, the burger, and you pick it up instead of attacking. Here, that's not an issue. There's a strong attack, which I actually haven't used that much. There's a new star move, which is basically your super. There's a defensive special as well. The defensive special is invincible, however, you cannot cancel out of it. You can't use it as a burst anymore, which sometimes I disagree with. While I was recording the second playthrough for this channel, I actually got juggled to death by the Garcias with the knives. They hit me 4 times in a row, and I couldn't do anything about it. It feels kind of odd that you can't burst. In standard beat 'em up format or formula, you can pretty much use iframes off your throws as well. So you'll be using that more in your defensive specials. You kind of have to use it like baiting a burst of like Guilty Gear or something, where if something's about to attack you, you use it to gain invincibility. A lot of the bosses have a pretty ridiculous amount of armor in this game, so sometimes what you'll want to do is just cancel into your armor, your defensive special, to get invincibility yourself, and then hit them to get the health back. It actually made a lot of the bosses easier for me. There's a certain boss, I don't want to provide spoilers, it's not like this game is super narrative focused, but there's a certain boss in the game that has permanent hyper armor, and being able to cancel into your defensive special to get iframes and then hit him to get it back was actually one of the most consistent strategies I found on that boss. Now, when you start the game, you'll only have story and battle. I think you can use battle to set up training mode, but I don't have a second controller hooked up at the moment, so I didn't do that. When you beat the game, you will get stage select, which is basically what you'll be using to practice or to get scores. There's like leaderboards in this game and stuff. There's arcade, which is basically forcing a 1cc. When you play story mode normally, you will always start with 2 lives on every level, and you'll be able to get maybe 1 or 2 extends if you play really well, but after that your score and your lives are reset to 2. So you basically will not have to 1cc the game on your first run. It's probably not going to be too difficult for seasoned veterans. I will say I do not like the final boss, because the final boss is just full of armor. I think they could do without having so much armor. But in any case, let's get into a little quick overview here. So you have rankings very similar to a DMC game or Platinum game or anything like that. It seems like it's pretty difficult to get S ranks. I did get a couple S ranks on my Switch playthrough, which was my first playthrough, and it seems like you basically need to not die and then maybe have a bunch of life left over, because that's a big part of your bonus as well. There are 12 levels in the game, but I will tell you the second half of the game, it seems like it's considerably shorter than the first half, which is a good thing. There's a lot of beat 'em ups these days that they try to be like 6 to 8 hour character action length playthroughs, and they don't have the depth or variety to really warrant that. They were actually very, very cautious here. I'd say on the first playthrough, if you don't like reset and you get through the whole game in 1 credit, 1 sitting, it probably will take maybe about 2 hours. I imagine the speed one will probably be around an hour and a half, maybe a little bit shorter. Obviously the game just came out, I just kind of came up with some strats on my own, but that's probably my rough estimate for a first playthrough. So let's get into the bad news. There is no universal running or dodging in this game at all. It is my biggest pet peeve with this game in general. It kind of feels like they're forcing a slower pace. They actually did say in some of the making of videos during the pre-release period that they wanted to make it a little bit slower, because it doesn't really have to draw you like an arcade game did, because it's a home console game. But the problem is a lot of the characters just don't feel fun to play to me. It feels like if Axel, Blaze, and Floyd could run and dodge, and there was like a blocking mechanic or something, it would feel a little bit more fair. I wouldn't say that the game feels unfair, however, there's a lot of times where you'll just have, you know, someone will do something at you armored, or they'll grab you or something, and you can't, like, dodge. You can't run or anything like that to get out of the way. That's what feels really off about this game. One thing I hope that they will do is maybe they'll make it unlockable, where you can unlock, like, running and dodging. I think that would be a nice alternate way to play the game that could be optional for people who want it to be more, you know, authentic to the first two games. So, I beat the game with Cherry. It's my favorite character because she can run. She feels a lot faster paced. You can actually jump cancel certain attacks in this game. The juggle system is actually quite nice, but there is like an OTG limit and things like that, so you can't go too crazy. I haven't really found too many optimized boss combos yet, but that's definitely part of the fun of this game, is how easy it is to get into, but how hard it is to master. So here's a good example here. I'll be pushing the circle button, pick up the pizza, instead of having to have the attack button do it. It comes in handy later on. Those of you who are old men like me are going to get some PTSD from the Garcias in this game, because they can... they're still the kings of active hitboxes. You're going to get hit by them a lot. So you notice the green bar on my health bar? That is basically my recoverable health. When I use a special, you will get a portion of your health bar as green, and then if you use normal attacks or blitz attacks, you can get it back. Made that little sound there. The sound represents that you have gotten all your health back from the last special that you used. Weapons are actually quite nice in this game. There's like Wang Yu's spear in this game that you can use. It has pretty crazy damage. You can also throw them as well. You don't feel as good as something like, say, Fight and Rage, where it was kind of had that Final Fight 3 system where everybody had a unique moveset for them and everything, but it feels better than most other beat-em-ups. Generally in beat-em-ups, even a lot of the most highly regarded ones, the weapons are usually useless, because they're not as good as your martial arts moveset. I actually just, force of habit, I never really used them that much on my first playthrough. And then on this playthrough, I actually used them more, and it made certain aspects of the game a lot easier. Your blitz attacks do not have invincibility at all in this game. That's something you'll have to get used to as well. But a lot of the blitz attacks actually cover a lot of distance, so I can see why they wanted to do that for balance's sake. But it would be cool if you had a little bit more freedom in this game. Their last game, Streets of Fury EX, I was a beta tester on. I kind of told them the same thing. The game felt a little stiff, and sometimes you couldn't dodge attacks as much as you would like. But in that game, they had like mutators that you could use to change the way the game is played. I think that's what this game could use, definitely. You know, like, keep the game the way it is now, but give people, after they beat the game, some options to unlock and change the way it's played. There's the old Pine Pot restaurant, still open. moves. As you can see there, I hit the OTG limit, so that last aerial special did not work. So your star moves replace the star system from Streets of Rage 3. They're basically like super power-ups, and you can only use them when you have them. There's no like desperation move mechanic or SP system or anything like that. They can definitely set up some devastating combos on bosses, but sometimes you'll want to use them actually to clear a crowd. They are fully invincible as well. Like hers is pretty good because it pushes everybody to the corner. So if you haven't used up your OTG, you can hit them again and get even more damage. Alright, let's show a boss fight here. See if I can show that tech I was talking about. I didn't get it in time. There we go. There's a combo you can do with the star move. Fight. There's some pretty harsh limits to the combo system. Like you can't really grab them that much. So the characters that have grabs, sometimes you won't really be able to use them much on bosses because they'll tech out. So as you get your lifetime score increased, you will unlock new characters. The new characters are basically all the retro characters. Unfortunately, some of the bosses actually have a significant amount of attacks and animation frames, but they are not playable because presumably they did not have enough time. So I assume that maybe there will be DLC or something. Overall, I really do enjoy this game. I just think that it feels a little bit stuck in the past in some aspects, like just not having really interesting defensive options. Some of the characters, Axel and Blaze, and Floyd specifically, they feel very slow, and it just doesn't feel like you can always dodge attacks as much as you'd like. One of the common strats and speedruns will inevitably be just jumping around, buddy hopping, because that's faster than walking, which feels kind of awkward. You can kind of get around with your aerial special, but sometimes you'll get hit out of that as well. So I don't know how they can really resolve it. I think the best way to fix it to please both sides would be to just make it unlockable and just let people toggle it on and off as they desire. Overall, it's a pretty good playthrough. It's pretty fun. The music is actually quite great. It's not all done by Koshiro and Kawashima. They have a couple other musicians as well. It's kind of got a little bit of a blend of the new generation and the old generation. Overall, I've really enjoyed the soundtrack. I've only gotten about 2 listens of it or so far, since this is my second playthrough. This is my 3rd playthrough now. But I definitely could see myself buying the soundtrack later on. Hopefully they'll support this game. Hopefully they'll add a little bit more replay value. I hear a lot of the retro characters leave a lot to be desired. They feel like they're kind of off from before, but the Streets of Rage 3 characters can run and dodge, so take that as you will. Hopefully they'll adjust that. I tend to like beat 'em ups where action games in general, where defending feels as good as attacking, and here the attacking feels great, but when you get hit by armor moves and stuff and you can't really do a lot about it, the game can definitely feel quite frustrating, specifically on the final boss. Anyway, that's it. Hope that helps you make an educated purchasing decision, and I'll have more gameplay up tomorrow.